So this question is from Parthasarathi.
Parthasarathi.
Yeah.
Wonderful. What's that?
Actually, in national Dalit movement, the contemporary Dalit movement, you can see always Ambedkar and Phule in some larger level sphere.
That's right. Yeah.
But however, there was a fragmented Dalit leaders also. For example, if you take in Tamil Nadu, Emmanuel Segaran, L.C. Gurusamy, Ayuthi Dasar, and more than that, Ayyankali here, which became even before Ambedkar.
That's right.
And Ambedkar could not, even in earlier interview, Yesudasan used to say, Ambedkar could not have that feature where Ayyankali already had in impact in Kerala society.
That's right. Yeah.
So that how do you see this two kinds of history? How do you put in as a historian?
Well, that's a good question. Difficult question.
Is it because RDI asked?
Could be. Tell him that I have an answer for that.
Yeah.
So, you see, what happens is that, much of this that you have referred to, Ambedkar, if not Phule, in Ambedkar's case, most of these things have been articulated in English, right? I hope I am right.
Yeah.
So, whereas in the case of many others, these ideas, whatever they did, their activities and all those things were never articulated in English. So, there is a gap between their actual activism in Kerala or elsewhere in South India and the manner in which these activisms, their ideas, etc. were received in the larger, public domains. Perhaps the nation, at the national level or even at the international level, people never heard about these individuals. So, even if I fear the usage of a word like vernacular, I should use that. I say that these so-called vernacular articulations which did not have the facility of English, in a way created a certain kind of time lag, and so much so that the English, the people who are speaking another language, who are in other linguistic cultural zone of India may not know about Ayyankali and others. But then if you look at the actual practices, the mobilization of Ayyankali and so on, then you find that he was actually dealing with issues in a way Ambedkar himself was problematizing at a later stage. That you can see. But in Ayyankali's case, curiously, you don't find him part of the temple entry movement. This is my guess. I have been trying to look at this. You don't find him becoming part of the temple entry movement in Kerala. So Vaikam Satyagraha and all those things were happening even when Ayyankali was alive, and he was not part of that. Whereas in Ambedkar's case, this famous Maha Satyagraha, he begins with that, then obviously he goes beyond that, and then he has an absolutely different problematic to develop. But in Kerala, if you take Ayyankali's case, it was different, and elsewhere I wrote one particular, in a paper I wrote that Ayyankali's movement was completely modern. It was a movement of, which was completely modern and which was using the resource of modernity, in the sense that he talks about, access to public space, education, new legal structure and so on, things where you have, a certain notion of citizen emerging. So I have written in a way little more about this question of citizenship in Kerala in the context of caste and anti-caste movement and so on. These issues have not been problematized by historians in Kerala or even other kinds of social scientists in Kerala. They never looked at this. So much so that you will find the struggles for education as becoming very fundamental to Ayyankali's movement. Unlike perhaps even other movements of other so-called reformers in Kerala, you find education becoming absolutely central to Ayyankali's movement. I think that's something which made it really modern. And then even as you have Ayyankali's speeches in Sri Mulam Prajasabha, where he has been articulating the demand for land for Puriyas and so on, but then you will find that education was very, very significant. So these cultural questions in that sense, these were questions of modernity where you have these issues being debated. But there is certain time lag in the translations of this. Translation I am using in the technical sense, where you get these ideas being translated. So there is a huge gap of time. So much so that it was never known to people outside. But obviously, if you take the last 10 years, you have a lot of small pamphlets. In fact, Chandarasheri was the first historian to write about that. Then after him, many people in Kerala and non-Malayalis, like even Meena Kandasamy wrote about it. Aloysius has a small pamphlet on Ayyankali, isn't it? So a lot of things are there being published in English. So gradually he gets certain kind of it's not just appreciation. He's being known outside the Malayalam speaking circles. So my feeling is that basically this was a movement of modernity, which is happening within this within the context of modernity and problematizing all these issues. And in fact, the question of citizenship, etc., that I have talked about, or even the questions within the legal frame, and that were central to Ambedkar's concern, if you like. I hope that has been happening in Ambedkar's case. But both this happened at different historical, even as they were in a way contemporaries, but they never had occasions to meet. But then you have these ideas being, ideas traveling and becoming part of the larger Dalit imagination. Or I must say that it is part of the democratic imagination of India, not just the question of Dalits or somebody like that. It's a larger resource of democratic imagination of India. This is how I look at this. Okay.